Dr. Cathara was reviewing her quarterly report on primitive civilizations when the first anomaly alert appeared on her quantum display. The soft chime that accompanied routine data updates was replaced by a harsh, urgent tone that indicated something requiring immediate attention. "Computer, display anomaly details," she commanded. The holographic interface materialized around her, showing data streams from the Sol System monitoring station. What she saw made her tentacles curl with confusion. The humans had somehow detected 17 different interstellar communication networks. "That's impossible," she muttered, checking the calibration data for the monitoring equipment. Everything appeared to be functioning normally. "Computer, verify sensor accuracy and run diagnostic protocols." "All systems operating within normal parameters," the artificial intelligence responded in its maddeningly calm tone. "Anomaly confirmed. Human civilization has demonstrated detection capabilities exceeding projected technological development by approximately 500 to 800 years. Dr. Cathara felt a chill run through her nervous system. In 50,000 years of studying primitive civilizations, she had never encountered anything like this. Species didn't suddenly leap forward centuries of development overnight. Display comparative analysis with previous observations. The data that appeared made her situation even more confusing. Just 6 months ago, human technology had been exactly where her models predicted it should be. Radio telescopes of adequate but unremarkable sensitivity. Computing systems based on silicon semiconductors. Energy generation from primitive fusion and fission reactions. Now, according to the monitoring data, their radio telescopes were somehow detecting signals that should require quantum coherent sensor arrays. Their computers were processing data at speeds that suggested quantum processing capabilities. And most disturbing of all, they were beginning to decode communications that used encryption protocols developed by civilizations millions of years older than them. "Emergency consultation required," she announced to her lab. Within moments, Admiral Thomas's and Counselor Yilmuth materialized in her research chamber through quantum teleportation. "What's so urgent that you pulled us from the Proxima Centauri trade negotiations?" Admiral Thomas's demanded, his scales showing the blue-green patterns that indicated annoyance. "The humans," Dr. Cathara replied, highlighting the anomalous data. "They're doing things that should be impossible for their technological level." Counselor Yilmuth's sensory tendrils immediately began processing the information streams. After several moments of analysis, his bioluminescent patches flickered in what his species used to indicate deep concern. "This data suggests they've developed quantum consciousness interfacing," Yilmuth observed. "That's completely impossible. They don't even have basic neural implant technology." "It gets worse," Dr. Cathara continued, bringing up additional reports. 3 days ago, a human research facility in what they call Switzerland achieved stable room temperature fusion, using a reactor design that our best theoretical physicists would consider revolutionary. Admiral Thomas's moved closer to the display. His predatory instincts suddenly engaged. "Show me the technical specifications." The hologram shifted to display the human fusion reactor. What appeared on the screen caused both visitors to freeze in shock. The design wasn't just advanced, it was elegant in ways that suggested understanding of dimensional physics that shouldn't exist for another 1,000 years of human development. "Where did they get this?" Admiral Thomas's asked quietly. "This isn't gradual technological progress. This is a quantum leap in understanding." "That's what concerns me," Dr. Cathara replied. "I've been monitoring their scientific literature. There are no papers, no research trails, no development history for any of these breakthroughs. It's as if the knowledge simply appeared in their minds." Counselor Yilmuth began pacing, his tendrils writhing with agitation. "We need to call an emergency council session. This violates every model we have for civilizational development." "There's more," Dr. Cathara announced grimly. She brought up a new set of data that made her visitors step back in alarm. Yesterday, human astronomers at their Arecibo facility successfully initiated two-way communication with our monitoring station in their Asteroid belt. The silence that followed was deafening. That's impossible, Admiral Thomas said finally. Our monitoring stations use quantum-encrypted channels with dimensional phase shifting. They would need... He paused, the implications hitting him. They would need technology at least equivalent to ours. Not equivalent, Dr. Cathara corrected. Superior. They not only detected our station, they broke our encryption, established a communication protocol, and sent a message. What did the message say? Counselor Yilmoth asked, though his tone suggested he dreaded the answer. Dr. Cathara activated the audio playback. A human voice speaking clear Galactic Standard filled the chamber. To the observers in the asteroid belt monitoring station, we acknowledge your presence and appreciate your interest in our development. We would like to schedule a formal meeting to discuss matters of mutual interest. We believe there may be some misunderstandings about our nature that need clarification. The three aliens stared at each other in stunned silence. They're speaking Galactic Standard, Admiral Thomas said slowly. Perfect pronunciation, correct grammatical structure, proper diplomatic protocol formatting. A language, Dr. Cathara added, that they should have no knowledge of whatsoever. Counselor Yilmoth's tendrils had gone completely still, a sign of extreme stress in his species. We need to contact Ambassador HFY immediately. And we need to recall all monitoring stations from the Sol system. Wait, Admiral Thomas said sharply. Before we do anything, I want to see more data. Show me everything that's happened in the last month. What Dr. Cathara displayed next painted a picture that became more disturbing with each revelation. Human space agencies had somehow developed propulsion systems that allowed them to reach the outer planets of their solar system in weeks instead of years. Their Mars colony, which had been struggling with basic survival just months earlier, was now thriving and expanding at an impossible rate, but most alarming of all were the archaeological discoveries. 3 weeks ago, Dr. Cathara explained, human archaeologists discovered ruins beneath their ice sheets in Antarctica. The ruins appear to be artificial structures of unknown origin, dating back approximately 50,000 years. The holographic display showed images that made all three aliens feel a chill of recognition. The architectural style was hauntingly familiar, though none of them could quite place where they'd seen it before. The humans are treating it as a major archaeological discovery, Dr. Cathara continued. But their analysis methods are troubling. How so? Admiral Thomas asked. They're using scanning techniques that we didn't think they'd developed. More importantly, they seem to understand what they're looking at. Their reports indicate they've identified the ruins as some kind of advanced manufacturing facility. Counselor Yilmoth moved closer to the display. Those symbols on the walls? I've seen those before, but I can't remember where. That's not the most disturbing part, Dr. Cathara said grimly. The humans claim the facility is still partially operational. The implications of that statement hit all three aliens simultaneously. Ancient ruins that were still operational suggested technology that could maintain itself across geological timescales. That kind of technology belonged to only the most advanced civilizations in galactic history. We need to evacuate all monitoring stations from that system immediately, Admiral Thomas declared. This is beyond our authority to handle. As if summoned by their growing panic, Ambassador HFY materialized in the chamber, his forearms moving in patterns that indicated extreme agitation. Have you seen the reports from the Vega system? He demanded without preamble. What reports? Dr. Cathara asked. Human ships, HFY replied. 3 vessels of unknown design appeared near our research station at Vega 7 approximately 6 hours ago. They requested permission to approach for a cultural exchange and mutual understanding. The silence that followed was broken only by the soft humming of the quantum processors that kept the research facility operational. That's impossible, Admiral Thomas said finally. The Vega system is 25 light-years from Earth. Even if they had faster-than-light travel, which they don't, they couldn't have reached there in the time since we last reviewed their status. Nevertheless, Ambassador Zephahai continued, the ships are there, and they're using technology that our best analysts can't identify or understand. The hulls appear to be composed of materials that don't register on our sensors. The propulsion systems show no energy signatures that we can detect. And when our station commander attempted to scan them, the human vessels somehow reflected the scan back, giving us detailed information about our own technology. Dr. Cathara felt her world tilting. Everything she understood about technological development, about the natural progression of civilizations, was crumbling around her. Did they communicate? She asked weakly. Oh yes, Zephahai replied. The lead ship sent a formal diplomatic message in perfect galactic standard. They said they were pleased to finally make formal contact and looked forward to renewing old friendships. The conference room aboard the lead human vessel was unlike anything the four alien representatives had ever experienced. The walls seemed to be made of living light, shifting between transparent and opaque as needed. The air itself felt different, charged with possibilities that made their advanced sensors useless. Captain Elena Vasquez stood at the head of a table that appeared to be carved from a single piece of crystallized space-time. She wore a simple blue uniform that bore no resemblance to the primitive spacesuits the aliens had expected. Her eyes held depths that spoke of knowledge accumulated across eons. Please, sit, she said in perfect galactic standard, gesturing to chairs that formed themselves from the floor to accommodate each species' unique physiology. We have much to discuss. Dr. Cathara, Admiral Thomas's, Counselor Yilmoth, and Ambassador Zephahai exchanged nervous glances. The casual display of matter manipulation technology was beyond anything in their respective civilizations' capabilities. Captain Vasquez, Admiral Thomas's began carefully, we must admit to some confusion about recent developments. Our records show that human civilization achieved spaceflight only decades ago. Yet you've demonstrated capabilities that suggest otherwise. Elena smiled, and somehow that simple expression contained centuries of patience. Your confusion is understandable. We've been very careful to maintain the appearance of a young species. It was necessary for your development. Our development? Ambassador Zephahai's forearms gestured in patterns indicating bewilderment. We don't understand. Of course you don't, Elena replied gently. How could you? You've been living in a carefully constructed reality designed to allow you to grow and mature at your own pace. She touched the table, and the room filled with holographic displays showing the galaxy as it existed millions of years ago. Stars in different positions, civilizations that no longer existed, and at the center of it all, a thriving network of worlds connected by technologies that dwarfed anything the modern galaxy had achieved. This was the galaxy 500,000 years ago, Elena explained. Our galaxy, the humans' galaxy. Counselor Yilmuth's tendrils writhed in distress. Impossible. The first civilization disappeared 500,000 years ago. You're claiming to be them? Not claiming, Elena corrected. We are them. We are the first civilization. We are what your species call the elder race, and we never disappeared. We simply chose to sleep. The display shifted, showing Earth as it existed 500,000 years ago. Instead of the primitive world the aliens expected, they saw a planet covered with cities that floated in the air, connected by streams of pure energy. Oceans teeming with artificial worlds. Space elevators that reached into dimensions beyond normal physics. Why? Dr. Cathara whispered. Why would you abandon all of this? Elena's expression grew sad, carrying the weight of unimaginable loss. Because we were alone. We had seeded the galaxy with life, guided the development of hundreds of species, created technologies that could reshape reality itself. But we were the only ones who had achieved true consciousness. The display changed again, showing humanity's attempts to communicate with the species they had helped evolve. The frustration and loneliness of beings who had transcended physical limitations, but found no peers to share their discoveries with. So we made a choice, Elena continued. We would sleep. We would allow ourselves to forget, to become primitive again, And while we slept, we would let the younger species develop naturally, without our interference. We wanted to see if they could achieve what we had, not through our guidance, but through their own efforts. Admiral Thomas's leaned forward, his predatory instincts trying to process this information. You're saying you deliberately became primitive? That you've been pretending to be a young civilization? More than pretending, Elena replied. We genuinely became primitive. We suppressed our own memories, our own technologies. We allowed ourselves to forget who we were and what we were capable of. For 500,000 years, we lived as you believed us to be, a young species struggling to understand the universe. But something changed, Counselor Yilmoth observed. Elena nodded. 6 months ago, by your calendar, humanity reached the trigger point we had programmed into our collective unconscious. When we began seriously listening to the stars, looking for other intelligent life, our true nature began to awaken. The display showed the sequence of events the aliens had witnessed, human technology advancing by leaps and bounds, ancient ruins being discovered, impossible capabilities manifesting overnight. The ruins in Antarctica aren't ancient, Elena explained. They're one of our manufacturing facilities, designed to reactivate when we were ready to remember ourselves. The technological advances your scientists observed weren't developments. They were memories returning. Dr. Cathara felt everything she understood about the universe shifting. The signals we detected, your ability to decode our communications. The ships that appeared at Vega ... All evidence of our awakening, Elena confirmed. As we remembered who we were, our technology remembered as well. What you saw as impossible advances were simply our tools recognizing their true nature. Ambassador Zephahai stood abruptly, his forearms trembling with a mixture of fear and outrage. This is impossible. We've observed your planet for thousands of years. We've seen your wars, your struggles, your primitive development. And it was all real, Elena assured him. We genuinely forgot. The wars were real. The struggles were real. The primitive development was real. We experienced every moment of it as authentically as any young civilization would. She touched the table again. And the room filled with images of human history, the rise and fall of empires, the development of art and science, the gradual expansion into space. For 500,000 years, we lived as you thought we were. We suffered and grew and learned just as any species does. The only difference was that deep in our genetic memory, buried beyond conscious access, lay the experiences of our previous existence. Why reveal yourselves now? Admiral Thomas's demanded. Why end the charade? Elena's expression grew serious. Because you're in danger. All of you. The holographic displays shifted to show something that made all 4 aliens recoil in horror. Dark spaces between the stars where galaxies should be. Entire regions of space that seemed to exist in a state of quantum decay. The silence, Counselor Yilmoth breathed. Recognizing the phenomenon that had been troubling galactic astronomers for decades. The silence is returning, Elena confirmed. It's the same force that threatened our original civilization 500,000 years ago. It consumes not just matter and energy, but the very possibility of existence. It's why we went to sleep in the first place. The display showed the ancient battle between the first civilization and entities of pure entropy that sought to return the universe to primordial chaos. We fought them once and won. But the victory cost us almost everything. Our civilization was devastated, our population reduced to a fraction of what it had been. We realized that even if we rebuilt, we would still be alone. And the silence would eventually return. So you chose to sleep until other civilizations could help you fight them, Dr. Cathara understood. Exactly, Elena replied. We programmed ourselves to awaken when the galaxy contained enough intelligent species to make a difference. When there were enough minds capable of the kind of advanced thinking necessary to combat existential threats. Admiral Thas's scales shifted to combat patterns. Are you saying our civilizations exist only to serve as soldiers in your war? Elena shook her head firmly. No, you exist because you were meant to exist. We help provide the initial conditions for life. But your species developed their own unique perspectives, their own solutions to problems, their own approaches to consciousness. That diversity is exactly what we need. She gestured to the assembled aliens. Your species has developed technologies and philosophies that we never achieved in our first existence. The Carillion Empire's quantum harmonic engineering, the Zethkari's probability mathematics, the Medathi's dimensional folding techniques. Each civilization has contributed something unique to the galactic community, something we never could have imagined on our own, Elena continued. That's why we needed to sleep, to forget, to let you develop naturally. Because the solutions to cosmic-level problems require perspectives we could never have achieved alone. The display changed to show the current state of the galaxy, hundreds of species, thousands of civilizations, each with their own unique approaches to science, philosophy, and consciousness. This is what we were hoping for, Elena said with genuine pride. A galaxy full of minds that think differently than we do. Together, we might actually be able to stop the silence permanently. Ambassador Zephahai slowly settled back into his chair, his mind reeling. The Galactic Council. Our dismissal of humanity, our assumption that you were primitive, was exactly what we wanted, Elena assured him. We needed to develop naturally alongside you. If you had known our true nature, it would have influenced your development in ways that might have made you less effective as independent civilizations. But now the masquerade is over, Admiral Thomases observed. Elena nodded. Now we need to work together as equals. The silence is already affecting the outer rim galaxies. We have perhaps a century before it reaches us. Yes, Al. The Galactic Council chamber buzzed with the familiar sounds of 100 different species, communicating in their native tongues. Translator implants worked overtime, converting clicks, whistles, and harmonic frequencies into understandable speech. At the center of the massive crystalline dome, a holographic display showed a small blue planet orbiting an unremarkable yellow star. This is what they call themselves? Ambassador Zephahai of the Carillion Empire asked, his forearms gesticulating dramatically. His species had achieved faster-than-light travel when this solar system was nothing but cosmic dust, and his contempt was obvious. Humans? The Exploration Committee's head, a towering insectoid named Vrexka, nodded with what could be interpreted as amusement. Indeed, they seemed to have named themselves after their species designation. Quite primitive, really. Admiral Thomases, whose people had been spacefaring for over 50,000 years, leaned back in his crystalline chair. His blue-scaled form rippled with what his species considered laughter. Let me understand this correctly. They've only just managed to put a few of their kind on their own moon, and they want to be considered for Galactic Council membership. The audacity is almost charming, added Counselor Yelmoth, a creature that resembled a floating jellyfish with dozens of sensory tendrils. Our archaeological surveys indicate they've only had what they call civilization for maybe 10,000 of their years. We were building star cities when their ancestors were still discovering fire. The holographic display shifted, showing images of human settlements, their primitive aircraft and their basic space stations. The assembled aliens watched with the kind of detached interest one might show when observing insects building a nest. Look at this. Vrexka highlighted a section showing human cities. They still burn fossil fuels for energy. Their fastest ships would take them centuries to reach even their nearest stellar neighbor, and they wage war against their own species over resources and territory. A chorus of what could generously be called laughter erupted from various council members. The Zethkari delegation, whose civilization spanned a dozen star systems, actually had tears streaming down their faces. Wait, it gets better. Admiral Thomases pulled up another display. They actually believe they might not be alone in the universe. They have something called SETI search for extraterrestrial intelligence. They're listening to radio waves, hoping someone might answer. The laughter grew louder. Even the usually stoic Madathi were showing signs of amusement. Should we tell them we've been monitoring their planet for the past 3,000 years? Asked Ambassador Zephahai, wiping moisture from his primary eyes. We have databases full of their radio and television transmissions. Fascinating cultural studies, really. They create fictional stories about aliens visiting their planet, always imagining themselves as either the victims or the eventual victors. Counselor Yomoth's tendrils swayed with mirth. The entertainment value alone might justify keeping them under observation. Did you see their science fiction about invasion scenarios? They actually think their primitive weapons could threaten a spacefaring civilization. The Council's senior anthropologist, Dr. Cathara, materialized in the chamber through quantum teleportation. Her arrival caused a brief shimmer in the air, a technology so commonplace among the galactic community that no one gave it a second glance. "Members of the Council," she began, her voice carrying the weight of academic authority. "I've completed my preliminary assessment of the species they call Homo sapiens." "And?" Vrexka prompted. "Remarkably unremarkable," Cathara replied, bringing up detailed biological and social analysis charts. "Standard carbon-based bipeds. Average lifespan barely a century. No natural telepathic abilities, no electromagnetic sensitivity, no quantum consciousness interface. Their brains operate on basic bioelectricity, quite crude, actually." She gestured to a cross-section of human neural structure. "They have to learn everything from scratch, each generation starting essentially blank. No genetic memory transfer, no collective consciousness backup. Each individual dies and all their accumulated knowledge dies with them unless they manually record it in external media." The assembled aliens shared looks of pity mixed with continued amusement. "Their social structure is equally primitive," Cathara continued. "They're divided into arbitrary geographical and ideological groups that regularly engage in warfare. They haven't even achieved planetary unity, let alone the harmony required for responsible space travel." Admiral Thomas shook his head sadly. "It's almost tragic, really. Here we are, representatives of civilizations spanning millions of years of development, and they think they're ready to join us because they managed to split an atom and reach their moon." "What was their formal request again?" asked Ambassador Zephahai. Vrexka pulled up an official document that had somehow reached the Council through deep space monitoring stations. "They want to establish diplomatic relations with any advanced extraterrestrial civilizations and contribute to a peaceful galactic community. They actually think they have something to contribute." The laughter returned, though this time it was more patronizing than cruel. "Contribute what, exactly?" Dr. Cathara asked rhetorically. "Their most advanced technology is centuries behind our obsolete systems. Their philosophy is fragmented and contradictory. Their art, while occasionally charming in its primitive way, lacks any cosmic perspective. And their science—" She paused for effect. Well, they're still debating whether their universe began with what they call a Big Bang." Counselor Yomoth's tendrils curled with what his species considered intellectual superiority. "They don't even know about quantum foam realities or dimensional layering. They think their universe is four-dimensional and linear. Should we respond to their request?" Admiral Thomas asked, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer. "The standard protocol for pre-warp civilizations," Vrexka replied officially. "Continued observation with minimal interference. Perhaps in another 1,000 years, if they survive their current technological adolescence, they might develop something interesting enough to warrant actual contact." "If they survive," Dr. Cathara noted ominously. "My analysis suggests they're approaching several potential extinction filters. Climate manipulation, nuclear weapons proliferation, artificial intelligence development without proper safeguards. The usual causes of early civilization collapse." "Pity," Ambassador Zephahai mused. "They show some interesting creative potential. Their fictional narratives about space travel and alien contact demonstrate imagination, even if it's completely uninformed by reality." The holographic display shifted again, showing human space agencies and their plans for Mars colonization, asteroid mining, and interstellar probe missions. "Look at this optimism." Admiral Thomas's pointed to images of human children drawing pictures of space stations and alien friends. They actually believe they'll be among the stars someday. It's endearing in the way a child's drawings are endearing. What's particularly amusing, Dr. Cathara added, is their assumption that technological advancement inevitably leads to peaceful intentions. They imagine that any civilization capable of interstellar travel must be benevolent and wise. It never occurs to them that we might simply be indifferent to their existence. The council members nodded in agreement. After all, they'd seen dozens of species like humanity rise and fall. Most never made it past their home star systems. The few that did usually took hundreds of thousands of years to develop the wisdom necessary for galactic citizenship. Very well, Vrexka announced formally. The motion before the council is to deny the preliminary request for contact from the species, designation humans of the planet they call Earth in the Sol System, Orion Arm, Milky Way Galaxy. All in favor? The vote was unanimous, though it was conducted with the casual disinterest of a group deciding not to stop and help an ant colony build a bridge. Motion carried, Vrexka declared. Dr. Cathara, please ensure our monitoring stations continue their observations. Schedule a review in 1,000 standard years, or sooner if they achieve anything remarkable. As the council members began to disperse, their conversation turned to more pressing matters. A trade dispute between the Altarian hegemony and the Centauri collective. A new form of art emerging from the crystalline worlds of the Vega system. And a philosophical debate about consciousness transfer ethics, the humans and their small blue planet, were forgotten almost immediately, relegated to the status of an interesting but irrelevant curiosity in the vast catalog of primitive civilizations. Little did they know that their decision would prove to be one of the most significant mistakes in galactic history. 3 months later, Captain Sarah Chun of the International Space Station was conducting routine observations of deep space radio signals when she detected something unusual. The patterns were too regular to be natural phenomena, too complex to be simple pulsars or other cosmic background noise. Control. This is ISS. We're picking up some unusual radio signatures in the direction of the Vega system. Requesting permission to dedicate more time to analysis. Copy that, ISS. Permission granted. Keep us informed of any developments. Sarah didn't know that her discovery would be the first step in a chain of events that would shake the very foundations of galactic civil